Hi everyone, welcome back to the Live to Inspire podcast of yours truly, Dave Coleman. This is episode 9. I had a little bit of a premonition about this episode, and it's all about mindset. So it's a bit of an interesting one. I've had several messages from amazing people, both where I am in Bahrain and back in the UK and from all over the world actually, which is astounding to me because I didn't think anyone would listen to this content, to be honest, but you have, so I thank you. And like I say, some of the comments I've had are just fantastic, that I've reached people. It's made some people think about certain aspects of their life. But interestingly, people have asked me, like, where'd you get your ideas from? The honest answer is I genuinely don't really know. I just sort of wake up in the middle of the night. I call them brain dumps. I'll either have my phone or my little notepad that I've got. And when my brain is overactive almost, I just write it down. So it's gone from my brain into or onto a notepad, on my phone, in a book, whatever it is. And it's literally like I've taken that thought and placed it somewhere, and I can then go back to it in the morning, and that leaves my brain clear for me to sleep, which, as we know, is really important. So like premonitions through nights, sleep, random thoughts, I don't know where they come from, but they just do. But also personal experiences and circumstances that, at the risk of overexposure and a level of vulnerability that I'm exposing myself to the world effectively with this content. Like I say, it's as much for me to disseminate my information or information I've learnt, because I think sharing knowledge can help other people. So it's helping me to help you. So anyway, that's that little ramble. Talking about mindset, the thought that came to me during the night was, normally people talk about a fixed versus growth mindset. And I'm sure we can all understand and appreciate those. But for me, it came to me as the open or closed mindset. So it's a little bit of a variation on a classic, I suppose, but to be open-minded, I think, is incredibly important in this day and age, as to different people are in different circumstances, different situations, different problems. And are we open to receiving those? Because again, that can help us, it can help them. Problem shared is a problem halved. Or are we, or you or I, a closed mindset, which could come across as potentially quite selfish, quite isolated, just with a view of, are we closed to the acceptance of situations, acceptance of other people, acceptance of our own situations? Are we closed and a shut door to letting people in? Because there was a situation I had to go through whilst teaching, explaining some mental health and dealing with problems. And the scenario was explained to us to disseminate, was about a bottle of Coke, and if you keep shaking the bottle, you shake it, and then you try and open the bottle in one go, obviously it explodes and goes everywhere. So that's more of the kind of closed mindset, I think, as a potential visual. If you have circumstances, situations, scenarios, whatever they are, and then you're closed the whole time, you then open the door, the chances are, I'm guilty of this, had a little cry the other night, everything accumulates into one big thing, and it just explodes, and it comes out as normally something wrong, or you'll say something wrong, or actions, whatever it is, and 9 times out of 10, it's not received well. It's not a reflection of who you are or the situation. So potentially, in this case, a closed mindset is potentially not ideal. Obviously, there's the opposite, which is an open mindset, or again, going back to that bottle of Coke, if it was shaken up, the best way to get access to the contents, whether that be your mind or the bottle of Coke, hopefully it's chilled, is to just progressively undo the lid a little bit at a time. Just try and deal with those situations. Try and release that pressure slowly, because that way you then have control over it. Like I mentioned in a previous episode of a Winter Olympic champion, her mantra was control the controllables. The British cycling secret squirrel thing that they set up for the London 2012 games was all about marginal gains. I have written about that in my book. It's a fascinating concept. I actually had one of my very good friends from the UK message me today and say that they were going to make a marginal gain or a 1% change by taking not only 1 but 2 bottles of water, just so that they can try and drink more. It's a small change, but potentially could elicit a massive difference. The same applies to anything. 1% better sleep, 1%, you get the idea. So to develop this thought process with mindset, and fixed versus growth, or open versus closed, my brain dump, please forgive me, I made quite a lot of notes here, dealing with anxiety and depression. So for me, I have a huge amount of social anxiety. At times can be extremely introverted, and some things are way out of my comfort zone. Not comfortable with certain social situations whatsoever. Gives me huge anxieties. Physiological responses are clear, shall we say. I think the other night I was walking home, had a panic attack. It was just on my own, but just through social anxiety. And I think the anxiety and potentially depression are quite closely linked. Again, I apologise if I mentioned this before. There was I think it was a TikTok I watched with Jim Carrey, who was talking about depression. And he said effectively what's happening is your body is in a state of deep rest, like depression. So you need to allow your body and your brain to go into a state of deep rest. If you keep piling things into it, it's only going to exacerbate that situation and then continue to perpetuate the depression more. So find balance in where you are and what you are doing can be a massive help. And again, just release that bottle cap off that bottle of Coke. Just release it a little bit at a time. It can do you the world of good. And even if that is, have a little cry. I watched The Pursuit of Happiness the other night, and it's one of my favourite films. It's obviously a true story. Will Smith and his son are starring it. It's just phenomenal. And I almost feel like I lived vicariously through them. I don't have a multi-million pound investment bank, but just the hard work, the graft, you have to keep going at it, and whatever your dream is, just stay true to it. There's something I'm attempting, another world record attempt, an endurance attempt in the summer with a team of 11 other ladies and gentlemen. Some of them are current servicemen and women, some are ex-servicemen and women, some are from the police force, all sorts of people, different ages, etc. And there's some of these guys have genuinely got PTSD. I know one of them, at least one, if not 2, 3, possibly 4 of them have served out in Afghanistan with horrific stories, which I'll let them disseminate. It's not for me to say. But the charity we do these record attempts for is called Lifting the Stress for Mental Health. I've written my notes here. So I personally find that I can paint a face on. I can put on a face for social situations. For how are you feeling? Yeah, I'm great. But actually, I'm just painting a face on because I'd rather not revisit the trauma in a public situation or public forum is a better word, and expose myself as being highly vulnerable. I think for a lot of people, it's very common that people will not or would feel the same. They don't want, they'd rather not disclose their problems or not disclose a trauma because it does expose a level of vulnerability. So as with most people, if I've put here, I want to run away and hide. I guess that's potentially the same for most people. So yeah, it is tough to deal with. I know there's I've listened to a few podcasts, I've listened to a few audiobooks, I've read books, and the general consensus is with any of these mindset things, tips, tricks, hacks, whatever you want to call them, the underlying point is that they are a lot easier said than done. And I 100% believe that. I've had numerous amounts of counselling. I talk to different people. I find it hard to trust people, to build relationships with people. It's a lot easier to just not say there's any problems and run away and hide, and all the problems will just disappear eventually, hopefully. But it does take time. The level of mental resilience, the growth mindset of actually, how can I go about improving this? How can I resolve this? Control the controllables. There are several things that I do just to share advice or personal experience, take it or leave it. One of which is journaling, if you will, or a gratitude diary. I don't really want to call it a diary, but sort of daily gratifications, daily gratitude, something like that. Could even be weekly. 3 things, for example, that you are thankful for or that you have achieved, or because it just flips from one thing that could be potentially very distressing, very challenging, very negative on your mindset, to actually at the end of the day, before you get into bed, you go, you know what, I left the house, I went to the gym, I got dressed. Like small things, it doesn't matter how small, they could be hugely significant to you. And if you've managed to do that and achieve it, you've now taken that and twisted it to become a positive mindset or growth mindset. It's a really good way of setting the mind before you go to sleep, before you rest, and allowing yourself to change the mindset, change from being fixed into, horses have blinkers on, right? They only see in a narrow vision. As growth mindset, you could be 360 degrees. So try, where possible, for daily or even weekly gratifications. Try journaling. The other one I used to use quite a lot was, are you goal orientated or are you journey orientated? I know we talked previously about goal setting and the significance of having a goal, being SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-focused goals, all really, really important. And believe me when I say this, when you achieve a goal, there is a massive side to it in that what happens once you've achieved that goal. Because once you've achieved it, you then don't have a goal. So the chances are that you could regress back into potentially some sort of anxiety, loss of purpose, loss of focus. You now no longer have a goal. So what would you do? What would you do? So the trick there is to focus on the journey rather than the outcome, because there's a lot more things, a lot more positive outcomes: personal development, physical development, mental awareness, development of emotional quotient, resilience, tenacity, finding balance in your life, loads and loads and loads of positive outcomes that can be found through the journey rather than the outcome. Effectively, the outcome is there to keep you accountable rather than a specific, because if it is, it is good to have goals, as we know, but focus on the journey to the goal, because then if you get to the goal or you've been on that journey, you can keep going with the journey. The journey can continue. I work with athletes and the same principle. We were aiming for one thing, it's slightly changed, the goal is still here, but we've had to go on a slightly different journey to get to the same outcome. We achieve that outcome, it keeps moving. We're still on a journey. And the path can take you in different routes. So it's about being accepting and growing in yourself, in your mind, as to those potential challenges and the journey that you will experience along the way. There is one other factor which came up for me with the mindset, which was imposter syndrome. I'm not sure if anyone is aware of it or if you've heard of it. Effectively, you are in yourself, you feel like an imposter. You feel like you shouldn't be in that situation, you shouldn't be in that environment. What am I doing here? Someone's going to find me out. I feel like a fraud. All sorts, anything along those lines. And I've had that a lot recently. And I joke about it, but that's my coping mechanism. I suffer a lot with imposter syndrome. And there are links to personally physiological responses on my body, that it flares up my ulcerative colitis. So the imposter syndrome links back to anxiety, which then links back to flares up in colitis, which then deteriorates my physical health, so that it becomes a negative cycle of deterioration, which is really not good, obviously. But again, there is a way to flip this around into a positive. And it does require time, a massive factor. I know we spoke about that in episode 8, in that with time, we can develop, we all develop. And having suffered with imposter syndrome, hold on, let me think about how to explain this. If you are not suffering from imposter syndrome, then you are still in a level of comfort. You're within your comfort zone. So if you aren't experiencing imposter syndrome, one could argue that you are not outside of your comfort zone. You're not challenging yourself. You're not growing as a person or an individual. You're not allowing yourself exposure to new scenarios, new challenges, which will then in turn help you mentally to resolve problems, which once you resolve a problem, that can lead to happiness. So you've got a tiny tweak there to fully embrace the imposter syndrome, that you are challenging yourself. That is a good thing, that you can do more. To the phrase, put yourself out there, see what happens. I've said it in my book, Dr. Pepper. What's the worst that can happen? Try it, give it a go. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, again, it's very similar to the journey. You will have learned something from it. You will become a more well-rounded person. I call them like worldly people who know about themselves, their intuition, they understand themselves and where they're going and just life experiences. So in the nicest possible way, if you are suffering from imposter syndrome, you're probably doing something that is going to allow you to grow and develop. So I would encourage you to go and try something different, do something different. So as a final thought, everyone around us, it doesn't matter if it's friends, family, colleagues, whatever, people all around us are fighting demons that we cannot see. So to put it bluntly, just be nice to people, just help people. Not everyone has a hidden agenda. Again, I think I mentioned this again previously. Just be nice. It's so simple. Send someone a text. If they reply, great. If they don't, what have you lost? 30 seconds of your life sending someone a text saying, how are you? Hope you've had a good week. If you want to chat, I'm here. Whatever it is, but it could make that person's day in that actually, you know what? Someone does care. Someone is thinking about me. I am loved. Also, it can have such a huge impact. Because like I said, you have no idea the demons that people are fighting, because we can all paint a face on. So be nice to people. Positivity leads to more positivity, which in turn obviously builds happiness, which then leads to more of a growth mindset or open-mindedness and self-awareness that we can all become better people and help each other, help ourselves to grow and become the best possible versions of ourselves. So I'll leave you with a quote. Look for answers inside the question. Look for answers inside the question. Thank you for listening. I hope you're well. Stay safe, stay strong. If you can share any of this, that'd be amazing. If you can subscribe, it helps me because then I know who's listening and, well, I was going to say who isn't, but I wouldn't know if no one's listening. But I do know if you are because you would have subscribed or left a comment or whatever. So thank you, take care, stay strong and keep the dream alive.